Hi, do you trust advertisements? Did you know that the models are Photoshop? No? Try to read the disclaimers. Unfortunately, yes.
Today in LitePsych, we're going to take a look at how effective disclaimers are in advertisements and how they affect our body satisfaction. For both men and women, body image and satisfaction has always been affected by what we see in the media. Whether it be that tall, buff dude or that skinny ab woman, we often compare ourselves to these images that we see. And many of us know that most of the time, these images aren't even real. They've been photoshopped like crazy and edited like hell so that they will look that good. Because of this, several countries have deemed this as an issue of public concern and of public health, because these unrealistic advertisements push people to extreme methods just to get those same proportions. They practice unhealthy diets, exercise to the point of death, and undergo risky surgeries to get the transformation that they desire. And aside from the physical toll that this will obviously take, it also affects the mental health of people. Because of this, several professionals across different countries have proposed several strategies to combat the idealized imagery that we see in advertising. Countries like Israel, France, and Australia have passed laws to specifically target the idealized images that we see in advertising. They have asked that images which are altered or enhanced to have a disclaimer saying that there have been edits to these images. In Israel, it is called the Photoshop law. The law states that the disclaimer must take up at least 7% of the total advertisement space. This is in hopes that the public becomes more aware of the information about that advertisement to see that it's really not that realistic. The social comparison theory from the field of social psychology gives us an insight into why this is an important issue. According to this theory, we as people have a natural tendency to evaluate our abilities, traits, and attitudes. However, without an objective test or standard to measure those things against, we turn to other people to measure how we're doing in those categories. There are two kinds of social comparisons. The first one is downward comparison, where you compare yourself to someone who you think is doing less well or less better than you. For example, if you happen to be a cooking whiz and you see someone struggling with scrambled eggs, then you might think, I cook better than him or her. That's downward social comparison. The second form is naturally upward comparison. Upward comparison is when you compare yourself to someone who you think is greater or better than you. When you compare yourself to this someone, you might think that you are not as skilled or as competent as he or she is. Sometimes, upward social comparison can actually be a good thing, as it becomes your motivation to pursue and do better at the skill that you are evaluating. It can be a positive thing, especially if you share a distinct attribute with the person that you're comparing yourself to. For example, if you're on the basketball team and you feel that someone is a better shooter than you, but because you're both in the basketball team, you can see your teammate as a point of inspiration and motivation to get better at shooting hoops. But other times, and this is what we may be more familiar with, upward social comparisons can take a serious toll on our self-esteem. It can make you feel very discouraged because of the disparity between what you want and what you actually have. When looking at how upward social comparison is affected by bodily satisfaction, there has been a multitude of inconsistent studies, but we'll take a look at some of them. Some have found that being exposed to thin, idealized images have a negative effect on our body satisfaction. Others have found that it can enhance one's perception of their own body. One factor that affects this is if we perceive the image to be attainable or not. If you think that the image you're looking at is something that is doable in your lifetime and something that you can do, considering all your circumstances, then that idealized body image becomes a source of motivation, inspiration for you to pursue. Therefore, the upward social comparison functioning well and good for your mental health. If the image, however, is unattainable, then this leads to dissatisfaction. Because of this, some people purposefully avoid images that are too good to be true and look towards more realistic and regular people to look at. So disclaimers come into the picture because it aims to reduce the negative effects of the idealized images that we see in media. However, disclaimers have become inconclusive as to what they actually do in terms of our perception for our body satisfaction. Researchers found that disclaimers bring about what they call the boomerang effect. The boomerang effect is when you tell someone to not do something and it makes them want to do it more. It's when you tell them not to press the red button and that's why they do.
I'm Groot.
No! In the case of body images and satisfaction, disclaimers often point out which part of the images are edited. And instead of taking away the attention from that, it actually puts more attention and the spotlight on the edited parts. Therefore, disclaimers don't always work.
Sad.
Yes, it helps remind people that in general, what they're looking at is an unrealistic image, which decreases the likelihood that you and I may compare ourselves to what we see. But at the same time, despite knowing that models are already attractive and thin and fit, and all of that still require editing, is something that disclaimers also remind us of. And since the model, him or herself, does not meet the criteria or the standard of beauty to be posted in social media or in billboards, we then end up thinking, she was already thin to begin with. How thin do I have to be so that I can look good? This study was conducted in Israel, and this is what they found. They found that being exposed to ads that had disclaimers had no effect on body satisfaction and appearance satisfaction. And as mentioned earlier, this makes sense because the presence of the disclaimer reminds people that what you're looking at is unrealistic. Therefore, it would be weird to compare yourself to it.
So weird.
Next, the research did not find any significant difference between using big disclaimers and small disclaimers. The size of the disclaimer also did not affect the participants' attention to it. They could not even recall if a disclaimer was there to begin with. One explanation could be that in Israel, this is mandated by law and therefore they're used to it and they just don't notice it anymore. However, an interesting finding of the study is that a majority of women who were exposed to a thin model without a disclaimer still perceived it to be altered or edited. Additionally, there wasn't a difference in percentage of women who thought that it was edited, regardless if there was a disclaimer or not. This means that for a majority of women, when they see an ad, they likely think that it's already been edited. Why do you think that is? Let us know your guesses and hypotheses in the comments below. Here's what we found. Social media use increases more and more every year. And along with the daily postings comes the extra step or even necessity of modifying and editing the images that we post online. And given the popular use of social media and the magnitude that it plays in our lives, maybe these women, or just us in general, have already become conscious of the fact that a lot of things we see are enhanced. Recently, there have been Instagram and TikTok filters where people can point out how much of their certain features have been changed because of that filter. But because social media posts are not advertisements and therefore are not covered by the law, these may not have disclaimers. Some people do get deceived and take the negative effects of upward social comparison, but there are also a good number that already imply or just accept that since everyone's editing and enhancing anyway, what I'm probably seeing is edited and enhanced as well. This can also explain why in this study they didn't see an effect of the disclaimers on body satisfaction and appearance satisfaction, just because people are so used to it. Another explanation could be that the effects of social comparison are very instantaneous and automatic and isn't exactly something that you can capture in the moment. So for the researchers, it's very hard to tell if someone has been affected or not. Nevertheless, this study is in line with the previous research in saying that it will be better if there was more representation of an average man and woman in the advertisements that we see. Featuring an average-sized, average-looking model has been positively associated with body satisfaction. Having said this, it is a reminder that what we see in billboards and magazines and just the media in general may not paint a very realistic picture of the human body. And this is a call to ceaselessly love yourself, improve yourself, and find the many, many reasons to say that you are wonderful. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us at LitePsych on Instagram so you never miss out on the latest psychology and simple terminology. You are beautiful, and I am too. This is Jim. Thanks for watching.